Unleash the power of your training. Welcome to Should You Use a Multi-Brand Approach for Your LMS? Here are your hosts, Brandon Dreyer, Lee Wedgeworth, and Stephanie Stiles.
Our mastermind session today is, should you use a multi-brand approach to your LMS? And if so when does it make sense to take your LMS and split it up into different multi-branded LMSs? You should think of it as having an LMS hub or a mothership and having smaller branded LMSs branching out from the hub. There's a variety of scenarios where this makes sense, and in this session, our LMS guru and chief learning strategist will provide different LMS hub scenarios and answer your questions. So without further ado, welcome Lee and Brandon.
Thank you, Miss Steph. Hi, Rachel. Hey, Chuck. I see you guys. I know you guys. Would love to have you guys join us, especially because, Chuck, I know you use a learning management system. Rachel, I know you use a learning management system. So I want to make this as interactive as possible for you guys. So the question that I'm asking, and again, you guys, if you would love to answer it, that'd be great. Is there anybody in here who currently uses a multi-branded learning management system?
There I am.
Hey, Chuck.
We use microsites.
Chuck, do you? I know you have a learning management system, and I know that you have people that come to your learning management system for different certifications.
Indeed. And we don't, we use a central brand for all of it. However, the way you access the system is multi-branded. So you come in from a microsite. So
Okay.
So it looks multi-branded, but it's not.
Okay. So are you saying that it is one learning management system, but it has multiple brands on the learning management system?
The login interface is different, but once you get into the core, it's the same. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. So in this instance, in this particular session, the topic that we're talking about, where somebody might need a learning management system, let me say this a better way, that has multiple learning management systems that need different branding. So for example, we have a couple clients. We don't have Johnson & Johnson. Let's take a look at Johnson & Johnson, right? Johnson & Johnson, big conglomerate, owns multiple different brands, right? So if I am obviously I'm an employee for Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson chooses to have a Johnson & Johnson branded learning management system. And in our space at Total, we would call that the mothership, right? And so anything training that is Johnson & Johnson specific, mission, vision, values, this is who Johnson & Johnson is, this is our history, this is how we've evolved over the years, these are the founders, this is the type of culture that we instill in our employees, etc. But if I'm in the Listerine department, which is a brand that Johnson & Johnson owns, for me to take my Listerine specific training, when I log in, the system's going to recognize that Brandon is, let's say my role is a general manager at Listerine. The system's going to recognize that Brandon is a general manager with Listerine. It is going to send me directly to a Listerine branded learning management system. And then as a general manager, I would be able to see everything that a general manager should see. With me so far?
Mm-hmm.
Another example would be, being that I know Miss Rachel's in the automotive space, Chuck, I know you're in the automotive space. So there are several companies out there that own different products, right? They own shocks and struts, they own alternators, they own hydraulics, they own belts, etc. So at these OEMs and aftermarkets where they own multiple brands, I can take the training at the mothership that is specific to the holding company that owns all of these products, But if I want to take training on, I'm just going to use for an example, say like a shocks and struts, right? I then log in and the system recognizes that I belong to the shocks and struts, and it sends me directly to that branded learning management system where I can take product knowledge, right? Or preventative maintenance training or repair maintenance, etc. With me so far?
Yep.
So why do we do that? Well, the main reason is that it helps kind of, when you have larger companies like this, you have a lot of data and you have a lot of employees, it really segments it from a reporting perspective. And so this is where I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Lee Wedgeworth, and he's going to take a deeper dive into the why a multi-branded learning management system might be a good solution.
Thank you, Brandon.
You're welcome.
Great job kind of covering, the conceptual part of it, and the hows and the whys and the whats of when a multi-brand LMS might make sense. Now we're going to do a little bit deeper dive, as Brandon said, into kind of the logistics and the mechanics of how it's all accomplished through the LMS. Any good LMS, not necessarily the Tortal LMS, but this is the Tortal LMS approach that we're going to cover here. So it all really starts with the mothership, or as Stephanie said at the beginning, the hub. This is the umbrella, the overarching organization, the Johnson & Johnson from Brandon's example, the Yum brands, the Neighborly. This is the top level organization. This has a captain who is the administrator of the entire system, who can see all, do all, including all the content, all the users. A better way to label this person, though, might actually be an admiral, because they are something like a captain of captains, because there will be individual administrators for each of the brand concepts, or subsidiaries, divisions, however you want to segment this second layer that necessitates the multi-brand setup. So this person, as the mothership administrator, sees everything. They see all the content from all the different administrators that's been uploaded. They see all the users and all the different user bases and groups. And then, because data is king, they know all, right? This is an important piece of the puzzle, because the reporting all cascades up through the funnel into one centralized, normalized format, so that when you're running reports, one of the things that we've heard from a lot of our franchisee co-op based type clients is that they are constantly having to normalize data from disparate sources or from different areas of the organization. The advantage of having everybody in one LMS is that it all goes in the same, it all comes out the same, it looks the same. You're getting the same data points across the learning part of your organization from that top level, and you don't have to spend all that extra time constantly massaging data into a normalized format. Beyond that selfish benefit, there is also the ability to share. You're in a position as this mothership captain to push content down through all the different divisions, all the different departments. Like Brandon said, kind of maintaining the ability to keep things restricted from who should not see them, while granting explicit access to who should see them. And this is the same for all the different divisions. This is your privilege with all the different user bases that are part of the main organization. And then it goes all the way down to reports that can be shared more as a set of parameters than as a set of specific data, so that you can send date ranges or particular courses that you're interested in completion. And then the lesser admins, if you will, or the lieutenants within the organization, they are able to run those reports, apply those parameters to their own user base, and see that data as it pertains only to their selected divisions that they're empowered over, right? So some powerful tools there from the very top level perspective that you don't necessarily get unless you're doing a lot of that manual legwork to consolidate the information from several different sources. Make sense so far?
Yep.
Right on. So getting just into a little bit more of the visuals of how things play out from the mothership on down, right? So if we get into here on the brand concept one, using the the Johnson & Johnson example, this might be Listerine, right? This might be Gerber. From the Yum brands, this might be your KFC, this might be your Pizza Hut. Each one has its own secondary level admin who can only see content directly above them, right? They cannot see what's going on at the mothership level. They can only see what's going on at the Listerine level. This administrator has access to their own set of catalogs, their own set of groups. They can configure as many or as few subcatalogs and different roles and groups in the system, all of which work together to provide the kind of content segregation that I'm talking about. Each level of grouping can have its own level of administrator. So we're talking about a hierarchy that kind of goes down within complete flexibility within each of these second tier concept level groups. And again, everything completely visible from that top level mothership view, everything accessible, editable, but as the further we go down, the limit of influence, increases so that they are reduced in scope over what they can do. Whereas an administrator in this scenario only has access to the people who are part of this group, in this case, 2 location groups. So a hierarchy from the mothership on down with complete customization within each of those silos. So each brand concept gets their own brand specific design. So Chuck, kind of taking what you were mentioning a little bit further, they have a branded landing page or a branded microsite. This takes it a little bit further in that they actually have a branded LMS now that preserves their colors and logos and all their other design elements throughout that experience. They also have a substantial chunk of real estate on the LMS homepage, which is customizable for each individual brand that can be used to present whatever kind of static content or focused general information that you want to provide there. Everybody gets unlimited catalogs, unlimited roles, unlimited groups, unlimited admins at each of those group levels. So at the individual brand level, at the Listerine level, all the way down to the sales manager roles, all the way down to the individual locations if it was a model where there were actual locations involved. And then you have tons of other customizations by brand as well. So when it comes to email templates that are used to notify people of things that are happening in the LMS, say for example when they get enrolled in a course or they earn a certificate, you can customize those to send out something different for each brand as well. It's kind of going a little bit further as far as that branding. The Tortal LMS itself is a fairly clean, straightforward, a lot of white space kind of presentation just to sort of preserve the user experience and make everything cool on mobile and make sure that we're not getting in the way of the learning. We take a 2-click approach where everything is accessible. All the good stuff is easily reachable by the learner within 2 clicks from logging in. So it always looks kind of clean and sparse and sort of white spacey, but you can see here from our example from our friends at Neighborly, they actually all have their own separate logos. They have their own separate color schemes. And then from the perspective of each of these individuals, which would be users or administrators in the system, they would never know the difference. They wouldn't know that they actually go beyond AirServe and there is a larger Neighborly organization, watching from the top and governing all that happens. As far as they're concerned, they're in a branded AirServe LMS that serves only their organization. So again, getting out of the way of the learning, kind of presenting the cleanest, most straightforward experience for the learners. This is the opposite of that. This is the mothership view where, again, from our friends at Neighborly, this is what they see when they log in, literally everything. A savvy administrator would have no challenge with this, but it is just kind of to illustrate, what they all see, which is, again, everything. So kind of circling back to the primary question of the whole session here was, do you have multiple brands, or is multi-brand LMS right for you? Is it something that would fit for your model? So we kind of broken it down into 3 main chunks here. And if you can answer yes to any one of these main chunks here, then it could be that you should explore this option because it could be right as far as a good fit for your organization and making sure that you preserve the proper level of uniqueness amongst your brand entities, right? So if you've got multiple brands or concepts or divisions or subsidiaries, each of those having their own unique identity or their own unique branding that plays a role in how that brand is perceived, are there unique experiences within this organization that, for example, if you had an overarching company like Neighborly where, on one side over here, you're servicing electricians, and on another side over here, you're serving home care experts or in-home, hospice care people, then are there different experiences that need to be considered as far as delivering effective learning? And then culture, of course, plays into this as well. So how is all that being preserved to maintain the expectations of the learners and the administrators involved so that you're not getting in the way of the learning and you're making sure that it's all as easy and straightforward as possible? So if you've got a multiple entity situation, when they do have some unique needs around here, you can ask yourself, do you also have a need to share learners amongst your brands? Do you need to be able to cross over learners or administrators so that they can access content from another division, say a franchisee who might own a stake in more than one concept? or a location in more than one concept, you can always support that kind of crossover as well within this single LMS structure. Do you also want to share content? That would be a no-brainer, right? If you had some generic sort of HR compliance-based learning that you wanted to push down at the mothership level, you could easily do that and have it cascade down through the system so that everybody would see it, and it's only administrated from one single point. And then finally, of course, do you have similar training objectives throughout the organization that are shared, regardless of the culture, regardless of the branding? Do you have those similar training objectives that you're wanting to push from the top? Because it's a lot easier to push from the top of one system than it is from the top of, you know, a dozen different systems, again, that you're then going to be on the hook to consolidate data from. So that was a mouthful. Does it all make sense? What parts don't make sense, or what parts seem like they might be lacking for what you have been considering? Chuck, not to put you on the spot, but
No, that's fine. I have experience with multi-branded systems as well, although we don't currently use one. So I guess that along with the multi-branded system, is this an LCMS, is a learning and content management system. So in other words, if you have that common training, like a perfect example is human resources training. We've all got to have, you know, some form of HR training. Would this pull in graphics from other sources, from the contents part of the system, and actually change over graphics, branding, logos, and such for e-learning?
yes, so we do have an option for select courses that's called Brand It, where we apply something called the theme service, which then allows you to insert organization-specific logos, or like you're saying, you know, custom branding at the courseware level for the e-learning, not just the LMS scan, but the launched content. We do have that. That's right now, it's only available for Tortle branded courses or Tortle created courses.
Makes sense.
But that is one option. So you can push that content with specific branding. But the shared content model also allows you to take documents or content that you already have, upload it to the system, have it converted to trackable, reportable e-learning. So a PowerPoint, for example, if you can genericize it to the point that you can upload it to the mothership LMS, you can then allocate access to that content to each different brand concept admin, who will then create their own courses, or you could actually give them courses if you want. You can give them as much or as little as you want. If you were to say, give them a complete course, then they could take that course, pull it over into their environment, and then it would be launched, you know, for all practical purposes within that branded LMS environment. So from their perspective, or from the learner's perspective, it would be a branded e-learning as far as they're concerned. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That's super cool. That's good stuff right there.
Yeah, and it works with videos too, so even cooler. Yeah, great question. The ability to brand and do stuff at the LMS is always a little bit separate from the ability to do stuff at the e-learning level, but it seems like each year as we go through, you know, more and more, we're able to bridge that gap a little more efficiently.
Of course, you probably missed nothing, but I'm going to ask this question. Did we talk about how a single person could be in multiple instances, in multiple groups, multiple roles?
Yeah, so it's supported. It's touched on, but definitely bears repeating. The ability for that kind of crossover is huge. So depending on how the organization works, we have some multi-brand clients where you would really never know that there was such a thing as this mothership pilot, because they are so hands-off that they just kind of let the brands handle everything themselves, which is nice. But then if you did have some more empowered kind of upper level people at the mothership level who might not be overarching through the whole organization, but they might have a stake in 2 or 3 of the brands. Say you've got 7 and you want them to be able to see 2 or 3. Yes, you can absolutely cross them over. You can cross over content amongst just those 3, cross over users over just those 3, and whichever, you know, grouping that you choose to include when it comes time to report, whichever one that includes them, that'll pull them over and they'll be part of that reporting. So it's inclusive, which is cool.
You know, I know there's I don't know who all that's on here, John, Tracy, Chuck, I know you're not franchising Rachel, but if this does work well for those, multi-unit, multi-concept franchise owners, right? We do have some clients who have franchise owners. I'll just stick with Yum Brand that, they may own multiple KFCs and they may also own multiple Taco Bells as well. So this is where that would be very important for them as well.
So then you even cross over into like locations, so that if you had, if you had some sort of district manager that was over, that had, back to Brandon's examples, he's got some KFC stores and he's got some the taco place. He's got some of those too. If you had that kind of crossover, I have no idea if that happens in Yum Brands, but if you had that, then it would be totally supported. All you would do is just include them all the way down to the individual location for the stores, so that they could run a report that would include only their stores. And then from the very top level, if you said, like, here's the metrics that we want to see, here's the data parameters that we want to see in a report, when you share a report from the top, it applies it's not just the data, it's the parameters that are being shared, that are being, applied to that person's individual user base, so that when they report in or when they run their own reports, they'll see only their people's activities based on the parameters that are supplied from that shared report. So it keeps people from seeing what they're not supposed to see and seeing what they are supposed to see. And it's really, it plays out as a hierarchy, but it's really just kind of an infinite number of combinations of group memberships and then, access that you can put in place. The word infinite, not to get too geeky here, but you can set it up to be as robust or as simple as you want it to be in terms of who can see what, and keeping the blinders on the learners so that they stay the course and don't get sidetracked.
Yeah, you talk about hierarchy and reporting and different belonging to two different companies. That's a toughie, especially when it comes to certification. And you can tie it up even more when you have an employee that serves multiple roles, especially if there's variable compensation. so you have a store, that you have a certification tier for the low level worker, and then for the manager. Well, the manager serves both roles. Now it's technically double dipping. So how do you combat that?
I think the short answer is through user uniqueness and one-to-one relationships, so that if we encounter a situation where somebody's crossing over into a course that they've already taken, even if it is part of the entire other brand or the other entity or the other location, if they come to that course and, like you said, there's a potential for them to double dip somehow, the system still knows it's them. They still know this is you. You're the same guy from, KFC who took this food safety course last week, and for better or worse, you don't need to take it again. So we can prevent them from earning a second certification that they don't deserve, and we can also enforce them being, re-enrolled if it is applicable for them.
Okay, I'm going to needle you a little more on that one, Lee. How do you assure that it's an individual's profile and the same person hasn't created a second one? How's that happen?
Well, you got me there. The truth is that there's no way to prevent them from creating a second profile. We can apply business rules to restrict that, to say you cannot create another account with the same email address. Our default off the shelf is no two usernames can be the same, but we also don't have a blanket requirement that you have to have an email address. So we can impose that. We can impose, we can take it further, as oppressive as you might want to get with it, where they say, wait a second, there's already a John Smith in this LMS. So are you this John Smith? And then you can start asking them questions to say, prove or disprove that you don't already have an account. But at the end of the day, the malicious, sinister person will find a way to make another account. We'll just have to sort it out in the reporting.
They can always find another way.
Yep.
They always do.
Thank you. That was a tough question, actually. So thank you. That's good.
Nope, keep them coming. Good, great questions, Chuck. Look forward to talking about this more.